A cry for freedom, the Maji Maji Rebellion. This was not just a mere uprising, it was a profound statement against the injustices of colonial rule, a desperate plea for autonomy and dignity. The Maji Maji Rebellion was a powerful fight against colonial rule. It was a collective effort by various ethnic groups who united under a common cause, driven by the shared suffering and exploitation they endured. It happened in German East Africa, now Tanzania, from 1905 to 1907. This region, rich in culture and history, became the epicenter of a significant struggle that would echo through the annals of time. The people were tired of German oppression. The harsh policies imposed by the colonial administration disrupted their traditional way of life, leading to widespread discontent and unrest. They rose up against forced labor, high taxes, and the loss of their land. The German authorities had imposed severe taxes and forced the local population into labor, often under brutal conditions, to build infrastructure and plantations. This rebellion was a turning point. It was not just a physical battle but also a spiritual one, as the rebels believed in the magical properties of Maji, or water, which they thought would protect them from bullets. It showed the strength of African resistance. The unity and determination of the various ethnic groups demonstrated their resilience and their unwavering desire for freedom. It also showed the brutality of colonial powers. The German response was ruthless, employing scorched earth tactics, destroying villages, and killing thousands in an attempt to crush the rebellion. The Maji Maji Rebellion was a cry for freedom. It was a manifestation of the deep-seated desire for self-determination and an end to foreign domination. It was a refusal to bow down to injustice. The courage and sacrifice of those who participated in the rebellion became a symbol of resistance and hope for future generations. Though ultimately crushed, it left an indelible mark on the fight for African liberation. The rebellion's legacy lived on, inspiring subsequent movements and leaders in the struggle for independence across the continent. It remains a testament to the human spirit's yearning for freedom and self-determination. The Maji Maji Rebellion is remembered as a pivotal moment in the history of African resistance, a powerful reminder of the enduring quest for justice and equality. German East Africa was a land of turmoil in the early 20th century. The region, rich in natural resources and fertile land, attracted the attention of European powers, particularly Germany. The colonists saw an opportunity to exploit these resources for their own benefit, often at the expense of the local population. German colonists arrived with promises of progress. They spoke of modernization, infrastructure, and economic development. However, these promises were often hollow, masking their true intentions of domination and exploitation. But their actions told a different story. The colonists imposed strict regulations and harsh punishments on the local population. They disregarded the customs and traditions of the African people, leading to a growing sense of mistrust and resentment. They took land from the native people. Entire communities were uprooted and displaced to make way for large plantations. The fertile lands that once sustained local populations were now used to grow crops for export. They forced them to grow cash crops like cotton. These crops were labor-intensive and provided little benefit to the local farmers. Instead of growing food to feed their families, they were compelled to work for the profit of the colonists. These crops benefited the Germans, not the Africans. The profits from the cotton and other cash crops flowed back to Europe, leaving the local population impoverished and struggling to survive. The Germans imposed heavy taxes on the people. These taxes were often arbitrary and exorbitant, further straining the already struggling communities. Failure to pay these taxes could result in severe punishment or imprisonment. They forced them into labor on plantations and government projects. Men, women, and even children were subjected to grueling work under harsh conditions. This forced labor was not only physically demanding but also dehumanizing. This disrupted their traditional way of life. The social fabric of the communities was torn apart as people were taken away from their homes and families. Traditional practices and cultural activities were neglected or abandoned. It caused widespread suffering and resentment. The people were not only physically exhausted but also emotionally and spiritually drained. The sense of injustice and oppression grew stronger with each passing day. The people saw their culture, their land, and their very lives under threat. The colonists' disregard for their way of life and the continuous exploitation led to a collective sense of urgency to protect their heritage and future. This anger and frustration became the seeds of the Maji Maji Rebellion. The people, united by their shared suffering and desire for freedom, began to organize and resist. The uprising was not just a fight for land, but a struggle for dignity, identity, and survival. The Maji Maji Rebellion started in July 1905. This was a time of great unrest and dissatisfaction among the indigenous people of East Africa, who were suffering under the harsh rule of German colonialists. The rebellion was not just a spontaneous uprising, but a well-coordinated effort that had been brewing for years. It began in the south and quickly spread. Villages and communities across the region joined forces, united by a common goal to reclaim their land and freedom. The rebellion's rapid spread was a testament to the deep-seated anger and frustration that had been building up among the people. A spirit medium named Kinjekitile Ngwale sparked the uprising. He was a charismatic leader who inspired many with his vision of a united front against the oppressors. Kinjekitile's influence was profound and his message resonated deeply with the people. He claimed to have received a message from the ancestors. This message was seen as a divine endorsement of the rebellion, giving the people a sense of purpose and destiny. The spiritual aspect of the rebellion cannot be understated. It was a powerful motivator for those who believed they were fighting a holy war. He said a sacred water, or Maji, could protect the people from German bullets. This belief in the magical properties of the water gave the warriors a sense of invincibility. They believed that with the Maji they could not be harmed by the enemy's weapons. Inspired by this belief, thousands took up arms. Men, women, and even children were ready to fight for their freedom. The sense of unity and collective purpose was palpable, and it drove the people to take extraordinary risks. They attacked German outposts and plantations. These attacks were strategic and aimed at disrupting the colonial administration. The rebels knew that by targeting these key points, they could weaken the German hold on the region. The Germans were surprised by the scale and intensity of the rebellion. They had underestimated the resolve and resourcefulness of the indigenous people. The initial successes of the rebels sent shockwaves through the colonial establishment. They responded with brutal force. The German colonial forces launched a series of ruthless counterattacks, aiming to crush the rebellion with overwhelming violence. Villages were burned, and countless lives were lost in the brutal reprisals. Major battles took place in different parts of the colony. These battles were fierce, and often resulted in heavy casualties on both sides. The landscape of East Africa was forever changed by the conflict, with many areas bearing the scars of battle. The most famous was the fight at the stockade of Nyangombe. This battle became a symbol of the resistance, showcasing the bravery and determination of the Maji Maji warriors. Despite being outnumbered and outgunned, they fought with incredible courage. Despite their bravery, the Maji Maji warriors were outmatched. The German forces had superior training and equipment, making it difficult for the rebels to sustain their efforts. The disparity in resources was a significant factor in the eventual outcome of the rebellion. The Germans had superior weapons and ruthless tactics. Their advanced weaponry, including machine guns and artillery, gave them a decisive advantage. The brutal tactics employed by the colonial forces left a lasting impact on the region and its people. The Maji Maji Rebellion was more than just a political uprising. It was deeply rooted in traditional beliefs and spirituality. The Maji water was central to this. It represented the ancestors' power and protection. It unified diverse ethnic groups under a common cause. The belief in Maji gave the people courage and hope. It allowed them to confront a powerful enemy despite their inferior weaponry. This spiritual resistance is a testament to the power of belief in times of oppression. It highlights the importance of culture and tradition in shaping resistance movements. The Maji Maji Rebellion was eventually crushed by the Germans in 1907. The Germans unleashed a brutal campaign of reprisals. They killed tens of thousands of people. Villages were burned, crops destroyed, and entire communities uprooted. The rebellion left a scar on the land and its people. The immediate aftermath was a period of immense suffering. The people faced famine, disease, and displacement. The Germans tightened their grip on the colony, further exploiting its resources and people. Despite its tragic end, the Maji Maji Rebellion had a lasting impact. It showed the potential for Pan-African unity. It inspired future generations to fight for their freedom. The rebellion exposed the brutality of colonialism. It sparked international criticism of German colonial practices. The rebellion's legacy lived on in the hearts and minds of the people. It became a symbol of resistance against oppression. It showed the world that Africans were not willing to accept colonial rule lying down. The Maji Maji Rebellion holds a significant place in African history. It was one of the largest and most impactful uprisings against European colonialism in Africa. It showed the determination of the African people to resist foreign domination. The rebellion is remembered as a testament to the human spirit's yearning for freedom. It serves as a reminder of the cost of colonialism and the importance of self-determination. The Maji Maji warriors fought bravely. They believed their ancestors were on their side. This belief gave them strength. It helped them face a powerful enemy. The water ritual was a symbol of their unity. It connected them to their past and their land. Even though they did not win, their spirit lived on. The Maji Maji Rebellion showed the world the power of belief. It showed that even in the darkest of times, hope can fuel resistance. The Maji Maji Rebellion was a turning point in the fight against colonialism in Africa. It showed the world that Africans were willing to fight and die for their freedom. The rebellion may have been crushed, but its spirit lived on. It inspired future generations to continue the struggle for liberation. The Maji Maji Rebellion is a reminder that oppression can be resisted. It highlights the importance of unity, courage, and belief in the face of adversity. The spirit of Maji Maji continues to inspire today. It reminds us that the fight for justice and freedom is a continuous journey.